What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Danny on NFL, a show dedicated to the Indianapolis Colts. Now, on today's episode, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here. We're going to be talking about fantasy football rankings, specifically on the wide receiver rankings. So I'm going to go over my elite tier for the season. And of course, number one, I don't think there is any disputing this. My number one overall receiver in this year's fantasy leagues will be Michael Thomas. And I do not think that anybody will be pushing back on this. So Michael Thomas had a historic year last year. He had nearly 1,800 receiving yards. He broke Marvin Harrison's record of 144 receptions with 156. His best game statistically came in Week 5 against Tampa Bay, where he caught 182 yards on 11 catches and 2 touchdowns. He also had a 10.6 yards per reception average and 24 yards after the catch. 3 first down catches, and he had a 110.6 quarterback rating when Breeze was targeting him. If you're going to be looking for somebody in a PPR league, you want Thomas. I still think he's number one in a standard league as well. So my second receiver here is no shock either. Julio Jones. So Julio Jones last year caught nearly 1,400 receiving yards. He caught 99 of the passes that were thrown to him. He doesn't get a lot of touchdowns, but he did get 6. The thing about him is that he is on a team which really is a passing first team, and especially with Gurley coming to town, I think that it's going to only increase his value more. On the season last year, he had 76 first downs, 360 yards after the catch, and statistically his best game was in Week 2 against the Philadelphia Eagles. We all know what he did last year with the late game touchdown to win the game. He had 5 receptions, 106 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He also had another game which was really, really good against Jacksonville in Week 16. He had 166 yards, but he didn't catch a touchdown. Matt Ryan's quarterback rating when targeting him for the season was a 95.9. So again, I don't think that you can go wrong with Julio Jones at number 2 here. My number 3 ranked receiver for this year going into the season is Mike Evans. Now Evans is a player that always gets really good production no matter what. And I think that's really important to note because now we've got Tom Brady coming into town. Last year, despite missing 3 games, the last 3 games of the season, he had 1,157 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns, and 67 receptions. Now, he also did a big fat 0 against New Orleans in Week 5. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. However, with Tom Brady coming to town, I don't think that his production will decrease, but I do believe it's going to go up very dramatically, especially with Chris Godwin and Rob Gronkowski on the same team too. My number 4 ranked receiver this year is Avant Adams of the Green Bay Packers. Last year he had 100 receptions for 1,295 yards and 7 touchdowns. With him, he is a player that, of course, he has Aaron Rodgers throwing to him, so that's a advantage that he has right off the bat. He also had a 106.4 quarterback rating when thrown his way, 516 yards after the catch. He also had a reception percentage of 68.5. So again, the big value for Adams is that he's got Rodgers throwing to him, and he's in a offense that, really throws the ball a lot. So, statistically speaking, his best game last year was in the divisional playoffs. He had 8 receptions, 160 yards for 2 touchdowns. However, he did play Philadelphia in the regular season and had 180 yards on 10 receptions and had 98 yards after the catch with 7 first downs. So all of last year, he had 66 first downs. So if you are in a league which does first down scores, he is one of the players that you might want to actually think about too, because he does score a lot of first downs. My number 5 ranked receiver going into the 2020 NFL season is none other than DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is a player that is moving to a new team. He's going from Houston to Arizona, and he's also moving from Deshaun Watson to Kyler Murray. Now, Kyler Murray is a player, for all intents and purposes, had a very good rookie season last year, considering that they played in the same division as the Rams and as the 49ers. Both teams which have very, very good defenses. Last year, his best game came against Tennessee, where he caught 119 yards on 6 receptions. However, he did play Indianapolis in Week 12 and caught 6 for 94 for 2 touchdowns. Overall, last season, he had 119 receptions for 1,373 yards and 7 touchdowns. He also had a 106.6 quarterback rating when he was targeted, and only 1 interception was thrown when it was in his way. He also had 412 yards after the catch, and his longest catch was 43 yards of last year. My number 6 ranked receiver for the 2020 season is none other than Christian Godwin. So Godwin is a player which I found very interesting only because he was just so fast. He has the ability to run straight past everyone, then combine his speed with Mike Evans, and then also too with Gronk on there. And I think you have a recipe for the Bucs to have 2 1,500 100-catch receivers this year. So last year, Godwin had 86 catches for 1,333 yards and 9 touchdowns. His best game came against the Rams, where he had 12 receptions for 172 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then the next game, he had 7 catches for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Then again in the next week, so this is his 3rd game in a row, he had 10 catches for 151 yards. Again, one of the coolest things about Godwin here is his ability to not be a fantasy whack-a-mole. Now, a fantasy whack-a-mole is a player that, like T.Y. Hilton, I'm a diehard Colts fan. I do not want Hilton on my team at all. And the reason for that being is because he will go 10 for 150 yards and a touchdown, and then the next week he will go 1 for 10. Godwin here, and if you look at all of his games last year, right, he had 53, 121, 40, 172, 125, 151, 184, 121, right? So he's very consistent in his yardage. Now, the one thing that was very interesting about him is that his longest catch was 71 yards, and he had 580 yards after the catch. And despite all of the interceptions that Winston threw, he still had a 121.7 quarterback rating when thrown his way. My number 7 ranked player is none other than Amari Cooper. So Cooper is one of my favorite players just because he just has such a high motor. He is an excellent route runner, and no matter what, he has the ability to blow up. So he's a little bit down in my rankings at number 7, just because he's got that fantasy whack-a-mole kind of potential here. So if you take a look at some of his games, right? So against Green Bay, he had 226 yards and a touchdown. And then you played the Jets the next week, and he had 1 catch for 3 yards. Then he played Philly. He had 106 yards on 5 catches. And then he played the Giants. He had 80 yards on 4 catches with a touchdown. And then 2 weeks later, he played Detroit and had 3 catches for 38 yards. Then they played New England and he got shut out. So if you take a look at the games where he didn't have really good games, it was mostly because of the matchup that he had on him. I mean, Stephon Gilmore shut him out, right? And he was the defensive player of the year. Then Darius Slay was on him for the whole game, and he only caught 3 for 38. However, I think that Dak is a much better player than people give him credit for, and I also think that Ezekiel Elliott is a player that helps Amari Cooper's value. Last year, Cooper had 79 catches for 1,189 yards and 8 touchdowns. And Dak had a quarterback rating of 117.3 when he was targeted. However, he only had 232 yards after the catch. So there is a downside to drafting him here. It's that, one, he's got the whack-a-mole, as I call it, potential. But the other thing is that he can have multiple games where he is just going off, mostly because he has an excellent ability to run routes. My 9th ranked receiver is Tyreek Hill. So Hill is a player which I find just very interesting, only because, again, he's got the whack-a-mole potential too. That's why I don't have him in my top 5. That's why I have him in my bottom 5 of the elite tier. He plays with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, Mahomes is just a player that could just blow up at any second for whatever reason. I mean, we all saw what happened. He had 3 playoff games where they were down by at least 10 points and the Super Bowl, right? Including the Super Bowl, and they still came back to win. So, despite missing 5 games last year, he still had 75 catches for 1,773 yards and still had 9 touchdowns while missing 5 games, right? He also had 353 yards after the catch, and he had a very high yards per reception at 14.3. Also, Mahomes had a 109.7 passer rating when he was targeted. Statistically speaking, his best game came in Week 10 against the Titans, where he caught 11 passes for 157 yards and 1 touchdown. My number 9 receiver in the elite category is none other than Adam Thielen. Thielen is really one of my favorite players in the league just because of the work ethic that he has. He's got a massive motor and he does not quit. And if you actually watch a lot of his route running, he's a fantastic route runner. But he doesn't score a lot of touchdowns, which is one of the downsides, which is why I kind of have him in kind of the bottom tier of the elite. He is still an every week starter, really because Diggs is gone now, so he's basically the number 1 target there. Last year, he missed 6 games and still managed to catch 42 passes, 597 yards, and 6 touchdowns. However, he did have a 14.2 yard per catch average. Now, Thielen last year did not exactly have the best year, right? But in 2018, where he had a full year back, he caught 113 passes, 9 touchdowns, and had 1,373 yards. So something like that is a lot more comparable to it. And also to Cousins had a 115.4 quarterback rating when targeting him. So again, Thielen, you can't really go wrong with him, especially in a PPR league. Now, to round out the top 10 of my elite category, which is basically like an every week start, no matter what, even if they're going against a really bad matchup, is Cooper Kupp of the Rams. Kupp last year played lights out, had a fantastic year, caught 94 passes for 1,161 yards and 10 touchdowns. He had a 12.4 yards per reception average, 548 yards after the catch, and he had a 117.0 quarterback rating when he was targeted. So there you go. Those are my top 10 in the elite category for wide receivers in 2020 for the fantasy rankings. If you did like this video, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share this around to some of your friends, which, may actually help, right? Helps me out, helps you out. Let's see if we can get 5 likes on this video here. That would be awesome. Until next time, peace out.